Good morning, and many thanks for the warm welcome, and thank you for that very poetic prayer that you shared. It was a very beautiful opening to a time of stillness and silence. I want to share a little story. This is about a person who had a very severe accident and found himself paralyzed from the neck downwards. And he was interviewed by the Scotsman newspaper, and he wrote and spoke to the person. Gradual acceptance of this situation over many, many months, along with a rediscovery of his former love of meditation, allowed him to escape the limitations of his half-frozen body. I was reconnected with my coping mechanism, and so was able to face whatever life threw at me. And perhaps most importantly of all, the future did not seem like the bleak place it once had. It is this sense of spirituality, as Stewart puts it, that he hopes will inspire anyone who feels trapped by their circumstances. I knew this person many years before his accident. He was coming every day for meditation, and then he had other interests, and so we lost track of each other. And I met him again a few years ago, and I was amazed to see his sense of acceptance, of calm, and even joy. There was real joy when we met together, and subsequently joy when he found many of his old friends again. But it just illustrates the power of this inward turn and the freedom that one is able to find through that journey inwards. My own experience of meditation has been that truly the freedom that I thought about when I was 15 years old was very different. You think that freedom means the key to the door, coming home whatever time you want to. Freedom can be you can choose whatever you want. But some years later, beginning my journey on the path of meditation and till now, I've discovered that the real freedom is the freedom to be able to go beyond wasteful thinking, fearful thinking, the anxiety that most Londoners or anywhere, anyone in the world would experience. And there are three essential ingredients that combine together to give this inner sense of freedom from all negativity, fear, and anxiety. The first is coming to the awareness of the inner being, and that the inner being has quite a distinct experience to the physical form. It is actually not just a different experience, it is the being within which is quite different to the physical form. In that experience of going inwards and coming to the awareness of I, the inner being, the being of light, it's possible to experience a transcendence in which you experience the soul as that light, eternal, beyond time and space. It's not imagination. It's a very real experience that Father spoke of earlier. Like the eternal parent, the sense of eternity, free, completely free. Free even from death. The eternity of the soul is truly a liberating experience. And the second is, in that stillness in which I'm able to experience the original state of the self, there truly is the experience of the relationship with the divine. Whether we use the term mother or father or friend, companion, even beloved, but that very deep, intimate, personal connection and relationship gives that total assurance that all is well and all will be well. And whatever it is that has happened up until now has been a training, a learning to bring me to the point where I can move even higher, even faster. And the third experience, there's a space that we can all call home, a space that's within us, but also a space beyond us, a place of stillness, of silence, and I can't prove any of these things to you through science and its limitations, but yes, science is beginning to understand the edges of consciousness and beginning to explore that area also. But certainly through experience, even those who call themselves atheists have told me, I've been there, I know that place. And so in stillness and silence, and in particular through that connection with the divine, one is able to experience a space where there are no limits, no walls, a place of purity, a place of peace, a place which each one of us, wherever it is we come from on the physical planet, that we share that home. And as I practice this consciousness more and more, coming back to the inner being as a reality, sometimes people say, okay, I've had a few moments of silence, now let me get back to the real world. Reality and the real world is both. It is spirit and matter. It can never be matter alone. Matter alone doesn't have consciousness. I'm aware of reality, I am conscious. And so coming back to reality is actually going on that inward turn, coming to that awareness of that sacred space that I hold within myself, in which I can actually experience the highest of the human being, the highest of the inner self and the potential. Somebody asked the question, is it possible to have optimism in today's world? When you open up the news, whether it's on one of your devices or whether it's an actual paper or the television, the news is usually not optimistic. And so what is it that continues to give us hope? What is it that keeps us moving forward? I believe that it's because each one of us has had an experience at some point in our journey of life in which we've felt that within the soul itself, within the inner being, there is peace, there is love, there is truth, there is joy, there is purity. All these intangibles are very real. When we have them in our life, we feel very content. And when any of these are missing, we see the discontent and the sorrow and suffering and pain that occurs. But yet we keep going on, because at some point, each one of us had definitely had that experience of the original goodness of the human spirit. And so a chance to turn inwards and experience this is a chance to renew hope, to hold optimism, to be able to move forth into the world with dignity and grace and share the qualities of the inner being once again. We could curse the darkness, but that's not so useful. It adds to the darkness. But if we light a little candle, then we don't know how far the radiance of that candle is going to spread. And so every time I take a moment of silence and turn inwards, I'm again renewing that light, reigniting that light that can allow light to radiate around me. And when there's a gathering such as this, especially in the heart of London, the multiplication of the energy of this light reaches out far into the corners of the city and beyond. And so that inner journey, inward turn, reminds me of my own original state of being. Not something outside, not something artificial, not something that anyone can take away from me, but the original state of being of the self. And in that state, fear dissolves. There is no space for fear. I'm sure you must have heard people say that the opposite of love is fear. And when there is love, fear dissolves. And it's not just a saying, it's actually something that I'm sure you've experienced in your life too. Treat a child with love, give a child a hug, and the fear of the dark vanishes. The child might have been afraid, but give a loving hug. That's all you need to do. You don't need to use logic. You don't need to use eloquent words. Just a simple hug, and there's reassurance and security and no fear. And so in that awareness of the being that I am, the love that I am, the peace that I am, fear dissolves. And as I experience that connection with the divine and the power of love that comes from the divine, not only is it fear that goes away, but whatever there was that was negative within the self, I know it's a passing phase. It'll go. Yes, I have to hold the right consciousness and the right awareness to be able to remove the negativity. It's not going to just disappear, but certainly the love of the divine gives me that power to know that, yes, it is possible to deal with all types of negativity within. The negative within has also meant that I've been led into all sorts of addictions, whether it's substance addictions or whether it's emotional addictions, the greed, the anger, the attachments, the ego. And the power of God's love is a power that allows me to go beyond the negativity that I carry within. It's not someone else who makes me angry. There's something of great discontent inside that gets triggered and the anger explodes. And if I've dealt with the things inside and come to that inner state of freedom, and it's possible, and the power of God's love allows us to make it happen, make it possible, then things can go up and down around me, but I'll be able to hold on to that state of love, even for the person who is angry. Just visualize a canopy of light above you. That'll protect you, but also visualize that canopy reaching out to the other, and transformation begins to happen in a very beautiful way. So freedom, from all negativity, freedom from all waste. Try this as a little tool. Here's the planet, the earth stage, and I raise my consciousness to that home, that place of light and peace. And I look down on the drama that's unfolding on the planet, on the stage, and it's a very different perspective that I have. I see a very different picture than the one I saw when I was on the stage, engulfed by all the emotions that were charging around, seeing whatever it is that's going on. But that consciousness up above and looking down below, and I understand what it is I need to do, but also how it is I need to do it. It's not escapism, it's a preparation. And I come back down onto the earth stage, and in that awareness of being the observer, not just the observer anymore, but an active participant engaging with the things around. But now I do it differently than I would have whilst I was in that tug of war of emotion and conscience. My conscience telling me one thing and my emotions overwhelming me and carrying me off in a different track. And so these three very simple, should I use the word concepts? Because concept make it sound like it's just an imaginary scenario or a model that I'm using. But these are aspects of that bigger picture of truth, of reality. Awareness of the self, awareness of the divine, awareness of our home. Does it remind you of the photograph taken of planet Earth that we first saw many decades ago? And those of you who are as old as I am, or a little bit more, will remember how excited we were when we first saw that image. And the astronauts who said that first they identified with that one little city from which their spacecraft had taken off. Houston, that's where I'm from. And then further it was Texas. And as they went round and around, that's the US. And then a little while later, that's my planet. Big difference between the my city and my planet. And so having that distance, we don't need a spacecraft to do that. Just the power of the mind is so amazing, we can do it. And so lifting the consciousness to that home and being able to see things from a distance and coming back and engaging with things right here. And that freedom from space and time gives me the power, the capacity to do things differently than I would have otherwise. There's another very particular freedom that I'd like to address. And again, that comes when there's been this inward turn and this experience of light and love and truth in the presence of the divine. And that is the power to forgive. And the power to forgive is actually freedom for myself. Whilst I hold on to the things of the past, whether of one individual or one community or a whole race of people, I carry that burden with myself for as long as I hold it. I carry either sorrow and grief, or even worse, bitterness and hatred. And from one to the other is a very slippery slide. how do I deal with this? The first thing that happens when I decide I want to let go of this burden, I don't want to carry it around with me all the time anymore because it's an interference in my life. In that awareness, in that inner journey and that connection with the divine, I realize that what I'm asking for is freedom for myself. And with the power of God's love and the understanding that there was a big lesson I had to learn from whatever it is that happened, I can let go, I can become free. And if I can let go and become free, I'll be able to take even more of that divine love, but also be an instrument to share that. This inward turn and this inner journey is a lifetime, but it's also a second. In a second, I can have that experience of the infinite qualities of the divine. A lifetime, and I can fill myself with those same qualities till truly I myself become the image that has been created in the remembrance of the divine, a reflection of the divine. I appreciate greatly this opportunity to be here, to share these thoughts on silence and stillness in this very sacred place with very beautiful people who I've grown to love dearly. Thank you. A greeting of peace. Om. I am. Shanti. Peace.